Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is a massive book haul video. Now, I've been a bit under the weather and so I probably sound a little bit rough. I'm still feeling a little bit rough, but I really wanted to get this video out because March is coming up soon, and that means March Mystery Madness. And so we're just gonna go for it here. So I apologize if I sound a little bit rough. So this is what happened. There are two Salvation Army thrift stores in the city, and one week they had a 50% off sale, and their prices are already really good. Like, you know, paperbacks are $1 and hardcovers are $3. So a half price sale. I was there. And then the very next week they did a 10 books for $5 sale, which meant every book was 50 cents. And I was like, okay, so I had to go to those. So what you were going to see here is the result of those book sales. But then I also had a couple other books to show you. Now, because I have so many books here, I'm not going to be able to go into detail about any of them. But if anything looks interesting to you, you know, go ahead and look it up yourself. So the first one is actually one that I bought off of Amazon. I love this book. This is The Blue by Nancy Beaulieu. I really love this story. It's a historical mystery set in England in the 18th century. And it centers around the world of porcelain manufacturing. And there's some early industrial espionage in here, and also the search for the secrets of how to make a particular shade of blue, which is so interesting. And I love this book, and so when it went on sale on Amazon, I picked it up. The next two I got for free at the library. Our library has like this pop-up book sale area. And basically throughout the COVID situation, they made them all for free. They're usually really inexpensive anyway, but the library doesn't want to deal with money or coins or anything, so they're all for free. So I picked up Bluegate Fields by Anne Perry. This is one of their Charlotte and Thomas Pitt novels that I didn't have yet. And then this one I got because of the title, honestly, and that's The Knowledge by Martha Grimes. I don't know if I've ever read any Martha Grimes. It's a Richard Jury mystery, but The Knowledge, that's the test that taxi cab drivers in London have to take to prove that they are familiar enough with the city, and I think that all of that is so fascinating and awesome. Okay, so here we go. These are the books that I got at the thrift stores between those two book sales. So for super cheap, and I'm so excited about so many of these. This is Underground in Berlin by Marie Jalowitz-Simon, a young woman's extraordinary tale of survival in the heart of Nazi Germany. It's about a Jewish Berliner who survived, and it's translated by Anthea Bell. The Matchmaker of Kenmare by Frank Delaney. This is set in Ireland, and what was interesting to me here was the time period. It's set in 1943, and there's two people who get sent to London to act essentially as spies, and so that just sounded really interesting. This is The Captive by Victoria Holt. I love Victoria Holt, and I'm trying to collect her books, and this is set in London. Yeah. Steamboat on the River, a novel by Darwin Telhet, with drawings by John O'Hara Cosgrove II. This one, honestly, I got it just because the cover was so appealing, and there was a fantastic map on the inside. So it's about a steamboat from Cincinnati to Portland, landing in 1832, and this is apparently the November 1952 selection of Book of the Month. I think it's Book of the Month. Book Club edition, anyway. So, yeah. Why not, right? Vinyl Cafe Diaries by Stuart McLean. Again, I got this for the cover. We have a couple Stuart McLean books. He's a Canadian writer, and Saturdays he had a radio show where he would read out his stories, and his stories were hilarious and awesome, and so is the cover of this book. The end papers. And also, like, if you take off the dust jacket, yeah, just awesome. All right, A Stranger in Mayfair by Charles Finch. This is part of his Charles Lennox series, which is set in Victorian London. These are historical mysteries. I found a Phyllis Whitney, Feathers on the Moon. I've been wanting to give her a try, and this is about a girl that's vanished, and there's a character who lives on Vancouver Island, so awesome. The Figaro Murders by Laura Lebeau. I had never heard of this, but it's a mystery set in Vienna in 1786, and it's about a librettist, and he's got a week to finish the libretto for The Marriage of Figaro, and there's a murder. I mean, how can I not have heard of this? It sounds awesome. The Weed That Strings the Hangman's Bag by Alan Bradley. This is part of his Flavia de Luce series. This is a historical mystery set in 1950s England. Nothing Sacred by David Thorne. This is a thriller. In Gangland, Essex, no one is innocent. A mother's nightmare, her children taken from her, injuries all over their bodies. Who will believe her story? And another Victoria Holt, Snare of Serpents. This one is set in Scotland. Anne Radcliffe, The Romance of the Forest. I was excited to find this. I have her Mysteries of Udolpho, but Romance of the Forest, I'm pretty sure this one gets mentioned in Emma, in Jane Austen's Emma, as a book that, oh, I forgot her name, but Emma's friend recommends it to the guy that she likes. Anyway, so this is like Gothic, classic Gothic literature, and I love it. The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. I absolutely love this book, and I've been looking for it for a while, so I was super excited to find it. It is two timelines, just after World War II and then during World War I, and it's about women spies. Awesome. A Woman in Berlin, 8 Weeks in the Conquered City, a diary by Anonymous. This is 8 Weeks in 1945. The anonymous author was a young woman at the time of the fall of Berlin. She was a journalist and editor during and after the war. And this was translated by Philip Boehm. Robert Barnard, The Masters of the House. I really like Robert Barnard, and this one is about two children who are doing what they can to keep from getting taken by child services, it sounds like. Anyway, I always like Robert Barnard. I found a Hamish Macbeth I hadn't had yet. This is Death of a Charming Man by M.C. Beaton. This is a cozy series set in Scotland. Hamish Macbeth is the village constable. Cara Black, Murder on the Champ de Mars by Amy Leduc. Oh no, Amy Leduc, sorry. It's by Cara Black. Amy Leduc is the main character. She's an investigator in Paris, and this book is set in 1999. The Sixth Wife by Susanna Dunn. This is a novel about Catherine Parr, Henry VIII's sixth wife. Temples, Tombs, and Hieroglyphs by Barbara Mertz, a popular history of ancient Egypt, newly revised and updated. Barbara Mertz is the name of, is the author who wrote the Amelia Peabody series. She wrote them under the name of Elizabeth Peters. So this just sounds, yeah, really interesting. The Club Dumas by Arturo Perez Reverte. I'm loving this author. He's a Spanish author, and this book's been translated by Sonia Soto. And so this one is about a book detective who is hired to hunt down rare editions for wealthy and unscrupulous clients. A well-known bibliophile is found hanged, leaving behind part of the original manuscript of Alexander Dumas' The Three Musketeers, and our book detective is brought in to authenticate the fragment. That sounds so awesome. The Madonnas of Leningrad by Deborah Dean. This one sounds super interesting. It's about an older woman who is experiencing some memory loss, possible dementia, but she can remember her past, and she vividly remembers war-torn Leningrad, the fall of 1941, when she was a tour guide at the Hermitage Museum, and the German army's approach signaled the beginning of what would be a long and torturous siege on the city. And so they remove priceless masterpieces for safekeeping. And so yeah, this just sounds super interesting. Brat Farrar by Josephine Tay. This is one of her classic mysteries about a stranger who shows up, and I believe he pretends to be someone else. There's possibly an inheritance involved. The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. This is a classic of pre-revolutionary China, and she won a Nobel Prize, and I'm not sure if it was for this novel in specific or if it's just because of her as a writer, but this is a classic that I've been wanting to read for a while. I remember this being on my parents' bookshelves, but I never picked it up. This was from 1931. And then A Scream Goes Through the House by Arnold Weinstein. What literature teaches us about life. So that just sounded really interesting. He talks about, yeah, various things in literature and how that gives us an expanded sense of what human life actually feels like. Ghostly Murders by P.C. Doherty. This is part of his Canterbury Tales series. So he has taken the characters from the Canterbury Tales written by Geoffrey Chaucer, and he writes a mystery related to each of the characters. This one is the priest's tale of mystery and murder as he goes on pilgrimage from London to Canterbury. An Irish Country Girl by Patrick Taylor. This is part of his Irish Country Doctor series, and this one is about the housekeeper, Mrs. Kinky Kincaid, and it's kind of her backstory. Still Midnight by Denise Mina. This is set in Glasgow. There is an attack. Armed men invade a family home. A shot is fired. They escape with a hostage and demand for £2 million. The Egyptologist by Arthur Phillips. I had never heard of this, but it sounds really interesting and frankly like cool cover. It is about an Egyptologist obsessed with finding the tomb of an apocryphal king. It opens on the desert plains of Egypt in 1922 and winds its ways from the slums of Australia to the ballrooms of Boston by way of Oxford, the battlefields of the First World War, and the royal court in turmoil. So yeah. Charlotte and Emily by Jude Morgan, a novel of the Brontes. Why not, right? Sounds awesome. Rules of Civility by Amor Towles. I wasn't a huge fan of A Gentleman in Moscow, but I've heard a lot about this one, and so I thought I would give him another try. This is set in 1937 in New York City. The Poe Shadow by Matthew Pearl. He also wrote The Dante Club. This is set in Baltimore in 1849. And a lawyer and ardent admirer of Poe's risks everything to find out the truth behind the writer's death. My Brilliant Friend by Alina Ferrante. This is book one of the Neapolitan novels. It is set in Italy in 1950s in Naples, and it's been translated from the Italian by Anne Goldstein. 3 Gothic novels by, this is a Penguin Black Classics, and the 3 Gothic novels are The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole from 1765, William Beckford's Vathek from 1786, and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from 1818. I love a good Gothic. The Queen's Command by Maggie Osborne. This is, again, a novel of Elizabethan England. And then this is Poirot Loses a Client by Agatha Christie. I already have this book, but I don't have any in this edition. And look at that, isn't that great? So this is the Bantam Books edition. And so, yeah. Okay, and then I got a whole bunch of Robert Goddard. I really enjoy Robert Goddard. He writes primarily standalone mystery thrillers. I like that he sets them in different countries and at different time periods. And the first 2 are actually part of a trilogy. I had the first one, and so I was really excited to pick up the other 2. This is The Corners of the Globe and The Ends of the Earth. This is a trilogy that is set immediately following World War I. So Corners of the Globe, Mayhem, Betrayal, Double Cross, 1919. It is as though the war never ended. And The Ends of the Earth, Lies, Secrets, Revelations, 1919. The truth has never been in such short supply. All right, and then the other Robert Goddards that I found were In Pale Battalions, Into the Blue, Out of the Sun, Dying to Tell, and Name to a Face. So I think that someone got rid of their Robert Goddard collection, which was fine with me because I picked them up. All right, this is a history, Love and Louis XIV. The Women in the Life of the Sun King by Antonia Fraser. It's got a family tree in for the end papers. So I always love history. Another history, Court Lady and Country Wife by Lita Rose Betcherman. Royal Privilege and Civil War, 2 noble sisters in 17th century England. The premise of this just sounded so interesting. It's about the lives of 2 aristocratic sisters that present a perfect window into the world of political unrest and social intrigue in 17th century English society. Yeah, that just sounded awesome. Dear Mrs. Bird by A.J. Pierce. This is a historical fiction set in London during World War II about an aspiring journalist who becomes a secret advice columnist. And then another history, Wallace and Edward, Letters, 1931 to 1937. I mean, how can that not be awesome? The Intimate Correspondence of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. This was edited by Michael Bloch. Yeah, and so it really is. It's just their letters, and that's going to be so fascinating. Bernard Knight's The Grim Reaper. This is from his Crowner John series. This is a medieval mystery series set in 1195. Stay Alive by Simon Kernick. This is a thriller, 1 witness, 1 secret, no escape. Buried Alive by Kate Kingsbury. This is from her Manor House mystery series, which I'm trying to collect. It's a cozy mystery series set in England during World War II. And then I found a couple Ian Rankin's, Hide and Seek and Strip Jack. These are from his Rebus series, so these are set in Edinburgh, and Rebus is a detective on the police force. And then I found all 4 of the Raj Quartet, and I was so excited that they had all 4 of them. So this is the novel set during the decline of the British Raj in India. And this is a classic series, originally published in the 60s. And so I have The Jewel in the Crown, The Day of the Scorpion, The Towers of Silence, and A Division of the Spoils. And this series these are the TV tie-ins, which I'm not a fan of, but I got all 4 of them. So yeah. Everything Brave is Forgiven. Nope, Everyone Brave is Forgiven by Chris Cleave. This is a World War II novel. Interesting. So it's set in London in 1939. In London during the years of 1939 to 1942, when citizens had slim hope of survival, much less victory. Everyone Brave is Forgiven features little known history and a perfect wartime love story inspired by the real life love letters between Chris Cleave's grandparents. George Eliot, her novel Middlemarch, which I didn't have yet, so I'm glad to get a hold of that. Julian Fellowes' Belgravia. Julian Fellowes wrote the scripts for Downton Abbey. And so this is set in 1815. And then I actually found An Irish Country Doctor, which I believe is the first in this series. I hadn't read this one yet, nor did I own it, so I'm excited to have the first one in that series. Alison Weir, Innocent Traitor. This is her novel of Lady Jane Grey, who is a fascinating figure. Lady Jane Grey was kind of forced onto the throne after the death of Edward, the son of Henry VIII. And before Queen Mary comes on the throne, she's called like the 9 Days Queen, Lady Jane Grey. Ken Follett's Fall of Giants. This is book 1 of the Century trilogy. And it is, yeah, it just sounds super, super interesting. From the dirt and danger of a coal mine to the glittering chandeliers of a palace, from the corridors of power to the bedrooms of the mighty, Fall of Giants takes us into the inextricably entangled fates of 5 families and into a century that we thought we knew, but that now will never seem the same again. Perish the Day by John Farrow. This is a thriller set in New Hampshire on a university campus in New Hampshire. Knights of Rain and Stars by Maeve Binchy. I've never read any of Maeve Binchy, but Berna from Berna's Bookish Adventures, she recommended a couple, and this was one of them. 4 strangers with nothing in common but a need to escape meet in a Greek taverna high above the small village. Yeah, so from Ireland, America, Germany, and England, they have each left their homes and their old lives when a shocking tragedy throws them unexpectedly together. The Wild Girl by Kate Forsyth. First of all, gorgeous, gorgeous cover. This is historical fiction, the enchanting untold love story behind the famous fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm. Interesting. Frozen Moment by Camilla Cedar. It says move over Wallander. So yeah, she's apparently the new kid on the Scandinavian crime writing block. So this is a police procedural set in Sweden. Translated by Marlene Delargy. Killing Kate by Alex Lake. This is a thriller. There's a serial killer on the loose and all the victims look like you. scary. And then The Whitechapel Conspiracy by Anne Perry. This is part of her Charlotte and Thomas Pitt series, and it is set in spring 1892. And there you have it. That is my massive, massive book haul. So what do you think? Have you read any of these books? I would love to hear about that, and if you could recommend any for me where to start, there's a lot here. But if you recommend something to me, I'll read it sooner rather than later. So let's chat in the comment section down below, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye.